Hi, welcome to your first Read Aloud by Ms. Vinson. I hope you're having a great day. You're going to use this text for the next couple of days and the contents in it. So it will be posted here and you can continue to rewind it and listen to parts that you may need to answer any questions further. All right, here we go with Reading Aloud. Great Britain had won the French and Indian War. As a result, Great Britain gained a huge amount of land in North America. However, it also gained huge debt, which meant that it owed money. Britain also needed to send thousands of soldiers to North America to protect the new lands. Where would the British get money to pay for these troops and repay its debt? Leaders in Great Britain decided to tax American colonists to pay for part of the debt. The money raised from taxing colonists would also help pay the cost of defending the colonies. King George III was king of Great Britain and supported the idea of taxing the colonists. So did many members of the Britain Parliament, the assembly that makes Britain's laws. The members of Parliament represented different areas in Great Britain. To them, the tax seemed fair. Keep in mind, these people all lived in Britain or England. They did not live over here in America. In 1765, Parliament passed the Stamp Act. This law placed a tax on paper products in the colonies, such as legal documents, newspapers, and even playing cards. When the colonists bought these items, they would have to buy a stamp. There's a picture of what one of the stamps would look like off to the side, and they would have to get this in order to get any paper products. No taxation without representation. When the colonists learned about the Stamp Act, they complained. None of Parliament's representatives came from the American colonies. Since colonists had no representatives in Parliament, they thought Parliament should not tax them. A common cry in the colonies was, "No taxation without representation." The colonists take action. Patrick Henry was a young lawyer from Virginia. He opposed the Stamp Act. That means he didn't agree with it. He gave a powerful speech to Virginia's lawmakers. Parliament had no right to tax the colonists, he argued. Other leaders agreed with Henry. In October 1765, representatives from 9 colonies met in New York City. They included lawyers, farmers, and business people. The meeting they held was called the Stamp Act Congress. A Congress is a formal meeting. It can also be a law-making body. We think of Congress as the Congress now that we have that represents the United States. It helps make decisions, but this is the original meaning of it. The Congress asked Parliament to repeal or cancel the Stamp Act. Repeal means to stop, to get rid of, or to cancel. Individual colonists also opposed the Stamp Act. A group in Boston called the Sons of Liberty organized protest. Other groups formed throughout the colonies taking actions that frightened the people who stole the stamps, called stamp agents. These groups burned stamps, threatened stamp agents, and sometimes attacked the agents' homes. In Boston, protesters created an effigy or a life-size puppet of the local stamp agent and hung it from a tree. Soon, no one was willing to sell the stamps. They were pretty scared. I think I would be too. That would not be a job I would want for sure. In addition, some merchants, people who buy and sell goods for profit, decided to boycott British goods. Boycotts take place when people act together and refuse to use or buy something. The colonists' goal was to hurt British trade. By 1766, their actions worked. Parliament repealed the Stamp Act. Remember, that word repeal means to stop or cancel. Right? New taxes from Great Britain. No, they're just not done taxing yet. Although Parliament had repealed the Stamp Act, Great Britain still needed money. King George III and Parliament also wanted the American colonists to understand that Great Britain had the right to tax them. In 1767, a British leader named Charles Townshend called for a new set of laws to control the colonies. These were called the Townshend Acts. The laws placed a tariff or tax on many goods that the colonists imported from Britain. These goods included paper, wool, glass, paint, and lead. Tariffs are usually placed on goods to control trade between nations, but the only purpose of the tax of the Townshend Act was to make money for Great Britain. The colonists had to pay these taxes, but people living in Great Britain did not. In response to the new tariffs, colonists boycotted many of the tax items. The boycotts were more widespread than they had been for the Stamp Act. In Boston, the Sons of Liberty organized protests. Leaders such as Samuel Adams and James Otis spoke out about colonists' rights. Protests and boycotts spread throughout the colonies. More and more men and women joined the effort. Mercy Otis Warren, a writer from Boston, was the wife of a Massachusetts politician. Through her poems, plays, and historical writings, she promoted opposition to the British. In perhaps her most famous poem, she encouraged people to boycott tea and other imported goods. "We'll quit the useless vanities, unnecessary items of life," she wrote. In Newport, Rhode Island, a group of women known as the Daughters of Liberty began weaving their own cloth. They organized spinning bees where women would come together and spend hours spinning wool yarn. That way they wouldn't have to buy British wool. Others found ways to substitute homemade items for imported goods. For example, people began making Liberty tea, a tea using plants from North America. They drank it instead of the imported British tea. Townshend Acts repealed. Remember what repealed means? To get rid of or cancel, mostly. The boycotts were successful. Many British merchants lost money. In an attempt to limit the protests, the British government sent warships and troops to Boston Harbor in 1768. The troops did not stop the colonists, and the British merchants continued to lose money. They asked Parliament to repeal the Townshend Acts. In 1770, Parliament agreed. It repealed all of the taxes except a tax on tea. Though American colonists had won a victory over the British Parliament, problems remained. Tea was still taxed. British troops were still in Boston, and colonists were still angry. In the next few years, the trouble got worse. So keep in mind, their tea was kind of like our water or maybe our soda is now. They drank it every single day. It was part of what they did. It was part of their history and tradition. So for them to be taxing tea, that was very important to the colonists. Well, I hope you